And a lot of the things that you listed there were Amazon fees that you likely are not writing a check for. And I want to talk about this a little bit and how we manage this in our business. So you had mentioned tacos. I we have a acronym in our company called AFCOS, and that stands for Amazon Fee Cost of Sale. If you look this up on Google, you probably won't find anything because we literally made it up. But here's the rationale behind it. If you sit in on a mastermind or you go to a conference with a lot of Amazon sellers, a lot of people are going to talk about Amazon fees, and they will likely be complaining about how Amazon continues to nickel and dime and hit sellers with new types of fees. We saw this last year with inventory overage. We're seeing it rolled out this April with the new low inventory penalty. And what I've come to the conclusion of is that's not going to go away. And so if they're going to start charging us these fees, we really need to have a good understanding of what are they and can we manage them. And so there's a report within Amazon Seller Central called the Amazon DRSR report. It's a reconciliation of your payments. And this is where we really like to go and look at what fees are they charging us, and can we manage these? So within here, you're going to see long-term storage fees, just monthly storage fees. If you have removals or disposals, that's going to be caught there. Your coupons that you had mentioned, and all of those are things that you want to have eyes on. And what we have found in our business is, and I promise this isn't going to be a discussion on PPC or tacos, but for those people that have actively managed a brand, to take a tacos from, say, 20% to 15% is really challenging. And oftentimes you're going to see a decline in your sales. However, to take an AFCOS, say from 8% to 3%, that's very doable. And it kind of goes back to what gets measured gets managed. And so I use the example of 8 to 3%. That is something that we did on one of our brands. We had noticed that storage fees were incredibly high for this particular brand. We readjusted how many days of inventory we were stocking. And we also noticed a couple other things, and this goes back to the percentage of revenue. This brand was doing really well in Canada. However, the FBA fee as a percentage of revenue was much higher in Canada relative to the US. And this let us know that, hey, maybe we need to check into a remeasurement. Maybe they don't have the right measurements. And we did. And in fact, that fee came down. And so this is something that we're looking at AFCOS on a monthly basis, and we will never get that to zero so long as storage fees are included in it, and that's okay. However, we want to do our best to manage that number as best we can and get it as low as possible, or at the very least, know what Amazon is charging you for. It's a really interesting way that the payments work out with Amazon because you're not writing a check for them. You don't get an email from Amazon saying, hey, by the way, we charged you $1,200 for an inventory overage fee. It just kind of comes out of your pay. And if you're not conscious of that, it can be many months later when you're looking at your books, wondering where all your money went. And so I would say that, Amazon can be a tight margin business. And so being aware of what those costs are and being aware of how to manage them is really important. So I would say AFCOS is one that is critically important.
How do you calculate AFCOS?
So we're going to that DRSR report, and anything that is any storage fee, long-term storage fees, just regular storage fees, coupons, discounts. And there's a whole bunch of other things that we may not have been hit with, but I think people would be surprised if they looked at their Amazon DRSR report for the last couple payments. And this is something that has become a regular document when we're doing financial reporting. And I like to put my eyes on it all the time because things do pop up. On this DRSR report, there's a line item for other Amazon fees, which is not descriptive at all. And so there have been times where we've needed to file cases and say, what is this? What is this mystery bill that we're being charged for? And it's really interesting to get that feedback from Amazon. And so I would say that if you're a prudent business owner, you're likely reviewing your credit card statements once a month at least. You're reviewing all the checks that you wrote for the month. This is in line with that part of being a prudent business owner, is understanding where that money's going. And so we do that through monitoring the AFCOS. You can call it whatever you want, but it's these sneaky fees that seem to be becoming more and more important in whether a product's successful or a failure, probably within the last year to 18 months.
Okay, so this is actually very much similar to the way I categorize, but before that, I want to say for our listeners, so what you are talking about measuring is go to that report, download it for the period that this applies, your analysis applies, and then take the total of those fees and divide it by your top line. And then look at the calculation. That's going to tell you all those fees that are in that report as a percentage of revenue. How much is that? And I agree with you. It is no big deal to bring that down from a high number to low number, because the reality is you are probably being charged those fees because you've done certain things, you've taken certain actions that really didn't, without thinking what it's going to do for you, then it's going to be a high percentage. So the way I see this is, so for as far as my P&L, what I like to separate is item-based fees, storage, advertising, Amazon commission, and then I call them everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And you're referring to the everything else, and that's in the ERSR report.
I am, and what I'd encourage everyone, if you do have an everything else bucket, is know what's in that bucket. No,
Exactly.
it's so critically important, and I think there's a lot of people that have been selling on Amazon for years that the payment just shows up and it is what it is, and that's, I think that if you want to get your black belt in selling on Amazon, you got to understand the Amazon fees piece of it. And so and that number may be zero or approximate zero, and that's great. But what
I
I found,
guarantee never zero. I guarantee you it's never zero.
what I found when we dug into it on one brand, and we were like, whoa, there's a lot more here than we were aware of. We need to, this is now a standard practice. We're going to look at this every single month, and we are going to monitor it and measure it and see if there's opportunities for us to do a better job here.